YouTube as well. Yes. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good morning. Welcome to this webinar. It's nice to have you guys here. Let us know you're here on the chat. Just introduce yourself with your name and the city that you're from. If you are a regular attendee, you know the drill by now. Just let us know which city you're from. Okay, Bryan from Colorado. Okay, we have another Bryan here.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that allowed?
Good morning, Isaac, Azizul. Yes. My name is Aparna and we're streaming from India. We have Bryan. You're from Houston, right?
I'm from Houston, that's right, yeah.
Yes, correct. Dharinya, welcome. Reyes, good evening. Today's agenda is going to be interesting. You're going to understand how you can crack the CSM exam in a record span of time, in a week. Hi, Sadiq, people on YouTube. Hi, Enoch. Hi, Jerry, Ashima. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Mohammed from Abu Dhabi. Nice to have you. Great, great, great. So while you guys introduce yourself, just some quick ground rules for today. What we're going to be doing is we're also recording this session. So in case you miss something, do not worry. We'll kind of share the recording and the webinar certificate with you in the next 24 hours, right? So if you also want to revisit the recording later and you want to watch us on YouTube, you could use the Simplilearn's YouTube channel to tune into this particular webinar. But let's say you want the recording right after the webinar, we have a community on WhatsApp where we share these alerts, right? So I'm just going to share the link to the WhatsApp community here. You can be a part of that, and then you could just join any future webinars or receive alerts on whatever is upcoming. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing the link to the WhatsApp community here. Some of you might be joining us from WhatsApp already, but if you aren't a part of the community already, you can just click on the link and become a part of it. Yeah, so yes, and also you will receive the certificate as a proof to attend. I mean, that you've attended this webinar, so you could share the certificate on your LinkedIn or wherever you want to, and tag Bryan as well. Yeah. So you will, all of this will come to you on your email as a follow-up email in the next 24 hours. And remember to stay till the end to submit your name for the certificate here. Yeah. Right. So if there are questions, please make sure you use the Q&A box. Not the chat box, but the Q&A box, and Bryan will be answering all of them. So do not worry if your question is not answered immediately or we're not addressing your name or anything. We'll make sure that all your concerns are addressed. Just don't keep posting the questions again and again. It just fills up the Q&A unnecessarily. Just make sure you put the question on the Q&A box and we'll make sure it's answered. Yeah, all right. Yes. And there are going to be a lot of polls that I'll be launching in order to ask your concerns about what your upskilling concerns are. If you want to join our course, we'll launch these polls later, and also about what your experience is, right? So you're going to get a bunch of these polls on Zoom. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, you would not have access to these polls on our channel. So you could do that on the live chat. You can answer these questions on the live chat. Now, let's say you're interested in taking up the certification training. You can click on the links in the description, in the video description. Now, if you're watching us on Zoom, we'll collect your interest via the poll, or I share the link to the course page here. Yes. So again, any questions related to the course, please put it on the Q&A box and we'll make sure it's answered. Now, coming back to the poll here, this is a quick poll about your experience. So let us know what your experience is. through this particular poll so that we understand you a little better. And also maybe on the chat, along with your names and cities, you've also said which city you're from. Just let us know which domain you're working in. That will also help us understand what your work profile is. Yeah. Yes, after answering this poll, of course. Yes, people on YouTube can use the live chat, and I am watching the chat for responses. Yes. Okay. Okay. That's great. So I'm going to be ending this poll right here. Bryan, you should be able to see the results now. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
that's great.
Yeah, a lot of them over 5 years.
Yeah, look at
Okay.
that.
A lot of them are experienced. Okay, great, great. So like I said, today's agenda is about helping you understand how you can crack the CSM exam and also a little bit about the certification itself. And to take you through the session, we've got Bryan. Right, all of you, I'm sure, know about Simplilearn already. I don't think, yeah, a lot of them are regular attendees here. So, I don't have to go about telling what Simplilearn is. So just head to simplilearn.com, find the courses, find the category that interests you, certifications, whether it's long-term programs, just head to the website and choose whatever course you want to. But today's focus is going to be about the Certified Scrum Master certification. Okay. And so, yeah, we've got Bryan, and Bryan is an experienced Agile program and project manager. He's got certifications in PMP. He's a safe practitioner. He's also a PGMP, which is he's also a PMI ACP certified, professional. So he is a mentor coach with Simplilearn and also multiple other organizations. Welcome, Bryan. It's always nice to host you. Bryan, I'm just going to hand it over to you right here.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks so much, Aparna. And yeah, you're right. We probably do have some groupies following you. You're very famous. Of course, lots of people just joining every session you host. So it's great to see a lot of folks on the call and maybe some familiar faces here. So yeah, a little bit about myself. I do work in the Agile coaching domain. So I spend a great deal of time on Agile practices, particularly helping organizations that really are interested in leveraging Agile and its benefits, but need some help extending that across their enterprise. So lots of experience across different industries, oil and gas, retail, insurance, healthcare. You'd be surprised, literally every single organization is embracing Agile practices. And we're going to hear a little bit about why they're doing that, because there's some pretty compelling reasons that Agile is very appealing to these organizations. But I also do a lot of work, like Aparna was saying, in the more conventional, traditional project management domain. Oftentimes, there's a lot of interest in organizations to blend these two together. How do we leverage some of these Agile practices, which have a lot of focus on bringing people together, enabling teams, and blend that with our more conventional project management practices, which are a bit more focused on managing to schedules and to budgets and ensuring that we're delivering what we've committed to so organizations can properly manage their delivery processes. So with that, you'll see I do a lot of work with Project Management Institute, including the more recent Project Management Body of Knowledge, or the PMBOK, the 7th edition. So if anyone's got a PMP certification here, some of that content is something I've been part of. So in any event, both of these are going to come together, and we're going to spend time talking about Scrum and the Scrum certification, but it ties into so many of these other certifications and more conventional project management practices. So it's a great place if you're considering making some educational and development investments. Is a good place to start.
Right. Do you want me to switch slides now?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
go into this. Should we dig into this? All
Yes.
right. So I suspect people here are interested in getting their certified Scrum Master. And I think there's some really good reasons that you'd want to focus on that certification. The first is it is definitely highly recognized. I would say this is sort of the most prominent and most preeminent of the Agile certifications. And there's a couple reasons for that. Scrum is sort of the biggest Agile certificate or a methodology that organizations are using. And part of the reason for that is, as I mentioned, I do a lot of project management certifications. And if I was spending time with you on your project management certification, first off, it'd be a 4-day, very intensive learning experience. You would be spending time with what amounts to a 1,000-page document, learning all about phases and these processes that support effective project delivery. And those are really important, really effective in terms of delivering large-scale projects successfully. But contrast that to what we find in Scrum. So Scrum is very intentionally lightweight. And in fact, that Scrum guide that is freely available, you can go to scrum.org and look at the latest Scrum guide, is only 13 pages. So you get a 1,000-page sort of encyclopedic reference if you're getting your project manager certification, and a 13-page reference document if you're pursuing more of the Scrum methodology. So as you can probably appreciate, many organizations are very interested in that because it's much easier to kind of help teams embrace those ideas because it's very lightweight. So it's a very well-recognized certification. It's globally recognized. It really opens doors if you want to pursue more Agile and Scrum practices. There's a fair amount of demand for those in organizations. In fact, generally speaking, if you're trying to get into most larger organizations, they are going to expect that you have some experience with Agile. So demonstrating that through a certification is going to be really powerful. And then finally, at the end of the day, this is about working effectively with teams, with people. And let's face it, that's how work gets done. We need to work with people. And Scrum is going to give you some really good tools and ideas on how to effectively collaborate and work with other team members. So there's some just outside of just the satisfaction of getting certification and helping you with career advancement, it just makes it easier to work with people. All right. What else do we have, Aparna? Yes, a quick overview. So what will help us a little bit just to kind of ground ourselves, and then this is just a reminder, we are not going to teach you everything about Scrum, but this is a handy little reference page and gives you a bit of a flavor on why Scrum is pretty compelling for many organizations because you can kind of represent it on a single page. In fact, this is essentially Scrum. This is all the parts of Scrum in one page. Which is very difficult to do for almost any other methodology. So it all starts with a backlog. Think of a backlog as just that prioritized list of things that need to get done. So these are requirements, work items. Sometimes you'll hear this term of a user story. It's written from the lens vantage point of a user. And we put those in sort of a big list, and we put the most important things at the top. And those most important things are the things that the team is going to understand, and then they're going to pull. So they're going to pull it into what's called a sprint. And a sprint is just a time box period in which we're going to get some work done. Now, a lot of times that's defaults to 2 weeks. There's a lot of good reasons to use 2 weeks as your standard sprint duration, but there's nothing magic about 2 weeks. You could find yourself in an organization that works with 1-week sprints, or even a more complex environment that needs 4 weeks to get all the work done within that period of time. So it's kind of up to the team and the organization to decide the duration of the sprint, but many times you'll find it's 2 weeks. And all sprints have these 4 standard meetings. These ceremonies are called. They do some planning. So you start off the sprint with some planning. Kind of makes sense, right? Like, let's plan together as a whole team, discuss what it is we're going to do. Once we've agreed on what it is we're going to do, we check in every day in a stand-up meeting, sometimes called a scrum. And that is just a place in which we kind of talk about, what did you do yesterday? What are you planning to do today? And do you have any issues, anything that's blocking you from getting work done? Because we want to understand that as quickly as we can. And the sooner we can understand where a blocker is, the sooner we can remove it to let people continue to work on the things that are important. At the end of the sprint, we pause and we do a sprint review. And we bring in the stakeholders, the people interested in the work that we're completing, and ask them for some feedback. Say, hey, we've been working for the last 2 weeks. We got these things done that you said were really important. What do you think? And if they like it and give us a thumbs up, we say, wonderful, let's release this. Let's get this out and in use and kind of get the value from it. If they've got some changes or adjustments, well, no problem. We've only spent a couple weeks on this. So we haven't gone too far down the path. we're in a good place to make those changes and make that opportunity to kind of adapt. And then finally, we have a retrospective. That's a point where the team just asks, hey, what can we do better? What are things that worked well for us? What are things maybe didn't work so well for us? What are some things we want to try out? So this is sort of this whole idea of continuous improvement. So those are the backlog feeds these ceremonies in the sprint, and then we have 3 roles. Only 3 roles. That's really kind of interesting when we think about most organizations have all sorts of roles, right? You could be a developer, a business analyst, a financial analyst, sales, marketing. But Scrum really just says, well, actually, there's only 3 roles that we're particularly interested in. One is the product owner, and this is the person responsible for that backlog. In fact, that is the product backlog. They take responsibility for prioritizing it, detailing it, making sure all the information is there so work can be completed against it. They connect with stakeholders and customers, and keep an eye on industry trends and directions. That's what the role of the product owner is responsible for. Then we have this role of a Scrum Master, which is probably what brings everyone here today. So what's the Scrum Master doing? Well, the Scrum Master is keeping an eye on everything, making sure that the backlog is, in a place everyone can access it, that it's described in a way that the team can pull that work, get it done. They track the progress through those 4 ceremonies you see there. So they would facilitate the planning event, the daily stand-up, the sprint review, and the retro. And really the role of the Scrum Master is kind of make the team great. So if the Scrum Master sees something that's preventing the team getting work done, they kind of rush in there and they say, let me help you out. Or if there's one of the stand-up meetings is taking longer than expected, the Scrum Master is going to say, well, hold on, everyone, let's keep focused here. We want to keep this to 15 minutes, very lightweight. So the Scrum Master is really there to ensure that people are using these processes effectively. And then, of course, you've got the team, the development team, the people doing the work. Notice again, no roles in there. No one's saying, hey, I'm a QA person, a developer, a business analyst, designer. They're just team members, and they bring sets of skills into the team. And the whole intent there is we want a cross-functional team that has all the skills necessary that they can get the work done and deploy it into production. So very quick overview of Scrum. That's mostly give you a bit of context because we're going to dig into a few of these topics as we talk about the certification process and how to ace that exam.
Got it. So you were mentioning a study guide, right, Brian? So I've just shared the link to download the guide on the
Oh,
chat.
excellent. Yeah,
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Aparna.
Yes.
Okay, so now that we've kind of got that layout, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to end up focusing on. So when we start preparing for a certification, we want to pass an exam, and I probably want to spend a little time on this. So you can learn all these concepts, and they'll still be very valuable. You can apply them in not just your work life, but even your personal life, volunteer life, wherever it might be, because these are very extensible practices. But if you're preparing for the exam that gives you the certification, you want to give a little thought to how am I going to get myself ready for this? Now, the good news is this CSM exam, the Certified ScrumMaster exam, is actually a pretty accessible exam. That's part of the reason I think it's also very popular. It's a great starting point if you want to start investing a bit more in your Agile and your Scrum knowledge. This is a very accessible exam. It's a lot easier than you'll find if you're taking your PMP certification. That's quite an exhaustive exam. It's hours and hours of taking questions and answering them. If you get your program manager certification like I did, it's a lot of written responses. So it's those are much more demanding. But this one, again, very accessible. So the first thing you want to start with is just first build a little bit of a plan that's going to address these particular topic areas. Get comfortable with the Scrum fundamentals. And those are a few things you just saw on the previous page. What are the roles? What are the artifacts like that backlog? What's a backlog? How would we describe it? How many roles are there? There's only 3. How many ceremonies are there? There's 4, plus another one called the backlog refinement. But get kind of familiar with those, get comfortable with the fundamentals. Also, Scrum has some of its own values that it emphasizes, things like transparency. So you'd want to get comfortable with these fundamentals. Those are all in the guide that are part of just linked there. And once you get comfortable and familiar with those, dig a bit deeper. That's when we get into the Scrum roles. What is the purpose of, or the the function of the Scrum Master versus the product owner. Where are sort of the role boundaries there? What does the team do? What are the events that brings the team together and helps them collaborate and interact? What are some of these artifacts that they're going to produce? Things like, what does the product backlog look like? What does the sprint backlog look like? How do we track progress as we get work completed throughout a sprint? Once you're in a place there, you've got a pretty solid understanding of all the things that go into Scrum and being a certified Scrum Master. Next thing becomes very important is take some mock tests. Okay, use this as an opportunity to kind of find out where you might have some areas that need to be strengthened. Maybe you need to spend a little bit more time on. Take some mock tests. There's lots of good examples. One of the best places that I've found for mock tests is actually just Simplilearn. They've done a great job investing in crafting very, very realistic mock tests. And those become really important because they are going to guide you in terms of where your readiness on whether you can take the certification exam. Then, as we saw, Parna just kind of posted in the chat there, get the Scrum Guide, take a look through it. It's only 13 pages. It's not overwhelming. And then build out some strategies on that. And with that, day 7, you are ready to take that certification exam and pass it. And by the way, as we're going through this, as Barna mentioned, if you've got some Q&A questions, just pop those in Q&A. Happy to take a closer look at those once we're finished going through this material.
I was also trying to post the link to the mock test, but then I'll do it a bit later. We can move on what resources you could use. Yeah.
Yeah. So now this again, there's different approaches people are going to find that are going to work effectively for them. But there's a couple that are really foundational. So to get your CSM, you are going to have to know the Scrum Guide. Now, fortunately, it's only 13 pages. It is a PMP. We'd have a lot more time spent on how do we kind of review that and organize our thoughts around it. But take some time to get familiar with the Scrum Guide, read through it, really focus on its principles, its values. The next thing is enrolling in some kind of training. Now, most training in this space is going to be about 2 days in duration. And being, somewhat open about this, I don't think you're going to find the content very difficult to get your arms around. This is all very accessible. In fact, many people who get their Scrum certification say, gosh, much of this feels like common sense. Like it's just very intuitive. And that's right. That's what's intended to be. So, but where you get the real power from the training is the exercises that you're going to get a chance to participate in, because these are going to be things that you can take back into your organization because your organization might not have everyone who's familiar with Agile. So learning some ways in which you can communicate these benefits and help people kind of really understand how to apply and leverage some of these Agile practices is going to be really valuable. The other thing is networking. I can't tell you how many folks, both in my own training experiences and as a teacher instructing in these areas, you still keep in touch with people. These become part of your network. And it's great to kind of see how their careers progress, but also use that as a place to maybe, ask a few questions and see what their experiences are that you can leverage in the work that you're doing. So again, CSM training is really, really important here. A big part of this is access to things like mock tests. Simplilearn has, I think, probably one of the better sets of mock tests and practice exams that you can find. And it's not only that the questions themselves are really, I think, realistic, which gets you kind of ready for the certification, but it allows you to kind of look back on your results. It times the duration. It's a 60-minute test, so it kind of keeps you within that time box. It just feels very, very similar to what you'd expect when you take the exam yourself. And then you might find, some study apps. There's lots of flashcard tools and products out there like Quizlets. Many of them have access to CSM practice quiz-like questions, so those can be valuable as well. And then, although it's not listed here, I get a lot of value often doing some, peer practice, reach out to others that might be doing the same thing. Again, if you're enrolled in a training class, you're going to have a group of other people that are interested in doing the same thing. So say, hey, why don't we all get together and practice a little, get ready for the exam. So things you want to make sure you really feel confident about is things like the concepts. the why behind the Scrum practices. I will tell you this, even though, as I said, Scrum is very accessible, it's not overwhelming, it's that 13-page Scrum guide. I come into many, many organizations. In fact, a great deal of the time that I spend is coming to organizations who are already doing Scrum. And they're asking the question, but it doesn't feel like it's working the way it's intended, that we're not getting all the benefits that we hear so much about. And a big part of that is because a lot of people doing Scrum don't really understand the why behind the Scrum practices. So for example, they might say, yep, we do some sprint planning. And I'll say, oh, wonderful. That's a really important part of our Scrum process. Let me join your sprint planning session and see how it goes. And then I discover they say, well, we really want to be sensitive to how much time people spend in meetings. So the sprint planning session is 30 minutes. Or, they're often quite proud of that. And they'll say, well, that's interesting because in 30 minutes, is that really enough time to plan out the commitments the team needs to make for this next 2-week period? And often when I kind of look at how they've been performing over previous sprints, we discover that they're not getting all the work done. They commit to things, but they don't finish them. And when we find out, why? Let's unpack that a little bit. We discover, well, it's because they're not spending enough time in planning to understand what the work is so they can commit to it. So why do we have a planning event? Well, we have a planning event so we understand what the work is, so we feel comfortable we've got the capacity and the skills of the team to get that work finished. And if you don't spend enough time in that planning event, sort of spending 30 minutes on it, you're not really going to get in a place where the team can confidently commit to delivering this work. So that why behind the work becomes really important. Similarly, a lot of teams will do a review. They'll say, hey, we finished our sprint. Now we're going to show our work and we're done. But they don't invite their customers to the review. And the whole purpose of the review is to get feedback. We want to check in with our customers for a couple reasons. One is they're going to have obviously good advice on what it is they need to see. They're the ones using this. But also it helps them feel connected to the delivery process. They're getting insights into progress and they feel like they're part of the delivery. So ensuring that you're inviting those customers, those business stakeholders into the reviews becomes really important. So again, making sure you understand the why of all those ceremonies, of the artifacts that are being produced is really critical if you're going to pass this exam. The other thing is time management. Obviously, you're going to have a fixed amount of time that you have to work within. It's 60 minutes for the Certified ScrumMaster exam. Generally speaking, I think most people are going to find that it's sufficient. They're not, making this a really difficult exam. I know when I got my GMAT, my graduate management submission test, that was intentionally designed. You could not finish all the questions in the time allotted, so you had to be very strategic about which ones you focus on, high degree of confidence so you get them completed in the time. But this one, you won't have that same concern, but you do want to be able to effectively manage the time that you have. So check in with yourself. Generally speaking, if there's 60 questions, ask an exam, let's make sure you're spending about a minute on a question and not spending too much time kind of reading, thinking. If that's happening, just flag that, come back to that question when you've completed the other ones. Yeah, eliminating wrong answers. There's lots of strategies in this space. These are all multiple choice questions. So, good practice is to eliminate any wrong answers, ones that you just immediately know that, okay, that's not correct. At least increases your odds of picking the right one if you're not sure of which of the other questions are correct. And then staying calm. For a lot of us, in fact, we've got a lot of experienced people on this call. It's probably been a while since you've written an exam. And yeah, you can sometimes feel a little anxious, right? Exam anxiety, it's a thing. So yeah, just practice a little to kind of get yourself calm and comfortable. That's where the practice exams become very helpful. So you get a little more familiar with the process and feel confident that you can get this done. And yeah, just avoid overthinking it. It's just an exam. You can retake it if you need to. So just be calm and get through the questions and you'll do great.
Right.
Well, what do we think, Prana? We ready to talk about getting them
Yeah.
enrolled in things like a CSM training program?
Yeah, I think we are. So let me just share my screen and head to the course page directly. Today, I thought I'd just show you the course page instead of, using it in a slide. So I think by now you understand, all of you understand the strategies to attempt or prepare for the exam, and you definitely understand what a Scrum Master does, right? I hope you do, because we've got no questions till now. So just a quick yes if you've understood on the chat will help, or if you have questions, just put it on the Q&A box. We'll wait for a minute to just get your responses. Also, people on YouTube, if you've got questions, yeah, everyone else, yes, yes. Okay. So now everyone is just giving us a yes. But if you do have questions, okay, so what is it that you didn't understand? Someone says, is,
Yeah, maybe put that in the
get the
Q&A box.
understanding. Okay. So please let us know what you didn't understand, and we'll answer that. Okay, great, great. I can see some of you are at least clear about the role, about the certification, about the benefits of the certification, and how to prepare for the exam, right? So just a quick update about what is really a CSM about. Is it like project management? Yeah, Brian,
Sure,
question.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
very, very common question comes up. What's the difference between a
Mm,
Scrum Master and a project manager?
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. In fact, many times you're going to see some very distinct overlaps between some of the responsibilities. But the big difference is that the Scrum Master is really there to find ways to empower the team, really make the team great. So how do they do that? Well, one is they oversee those events, those ceremonies. So Scrum Master's facilitating the Scrum planning, the daily stand-ups, the reviews, the retros. So they're the ones sort of ensuring that those are occurring, that the right people are involved, and the intent of those ceremonies are being met. Okay. Now, a project manager is also going to have an interest in ensuring the team is doing things like planning and connecting on progress and things. But oftentimes, a project manager is really looking at that through the lens of a schedule and a budget. So they are really focused a little bit more on more directive. I'm going to tell you how much time you have. I need this to get done by this date, managing a lot of dependencies. So project managers sort of look at this delivery process a little bit differently. They look at it in the form of constraints, whereas a Scrum Master looks at it through the lens of enablement. What can I do to get the best people working with the right intent on the most important things? And once that happens, then it takes the time it takes. I've got the best people. They are working on things that they clearly understand, and they are just going to work as hard as they can to get this work done.
Mm.
A project manager is going to force everything to kind of get done in a certain time, and then you've been a project manager a lot like I have. You spend a lot of time explaining why things aren't getting done when they're expected. So hopefully that answered your question a little bit. Oh, Sujanari. Man, I hope that's your name. Anyways,
Yeah.
but yes.
Right. So I'm just going to show the schedules right away, because a lot of you might have the question about, oh, when is this certification going to really start and all of that. So just a quick, we start with that, and then yeah. So you can see that the next cohort is pretty much the next couple of days, but we have cohorts every week. Okay, and this is price in INR. So if you just switch countries, I mean, if you open it from your end, you'll see the price in your currency, right? So if you've got the trainer's name, and you can see the timings as well. Yeah. So this is your training schedule, but now let's understand the details about the course. So obviously this is offered in partnership with Scrum Alliance. We've got like you see 20 plus live cohorts that happen in a month. And along with the course, along with the certification training, you get access to other complimentary Agile and Scrum courses by Scrum Alliance, and these are worth $500, right? And then you get a 2-year membership of Scrum Alliance. Along with that, the exam fee is also included. And with this, when you complete this certification training, you get 20 PDUs and 16 SUs. Yeah. So do you want to highlight on this, Brian, as to why this is important? What a PDU is and what an SU is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What do those letters mean? So
yeah.
PDU stands for a professional development unit. That's something used by the Project Management Institute. So once you get your any Project Management Institute certification, whether it's your PMP, your PMI-ACP, your PGMP, any of there's I think at least a dozen that they offer. These are PDUs that you have to earn during your 3-year period that your certification is valid. And then you use those to maintain it. So they expect you to have, I believe, 60 PDUs every 3 years. You earn those in different ways. You take this course, boom, you just got 20. So you're well on your way to maintaining your Project Management Institute certifications. Similarly, we have SEUs that are Scrum Educational Units. These are used to maintain your Certified ScrumMaster certification. So you have to complete a number of those every 2 years. Their life cycle is a little shorter than the PMI one. But in this case, if you have a PMP already, you're going to get some good credits there, and you're going to get your 16 SEUs to get things started for your Scrum Master certification.
Got it. All right. So that answers your question about PDUs and SEUs. And let's just look at what the course contains before we proceed to anything else. So if you could just explain the content of the content and the curriculum of the certification. Bryan, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you can see there's a lot that you're going to cover in this course. One is to kind of get that Scrum at a high level, like kind of the big overview, the single page picture that I kind of showed you there. Scrum history, where does Scrum come from? And who's involved in authoring that? So you'll often hear the names of the folks involved, so you have the visibility to kind of what led to the creation of Scrum and a better understanding of Scrum. And then also Agile. Oftentimes Scrum and Agile are used somewhat interchangeably, but they actually represent two different things. Agile is a set of behaviors, ways in which we want to work that is Agile. So what does that look like? Well, it means, hey, we're going to put more emphasis on working together, collaborating, interacting than we will on using processes and tools. Let's just bring people together, let them figure it out versus being really focused on a rigid prescriptive process that we follow. Now, Scrum leverages those ideas that are Agile, but they give you a bit more guidance because they're saying like Agile, yeah, it's great to kind of connect and have conversations, but like surely we need a little bit of direction on that. And that's where Scrum steps in and says, yes, and here's the answer. You do some planning, you have some daily stand-ups, you do a review and retro, just enough structure that teams can get the benefits of Agile. Then we'll do a quick scan of other Agile methodologies. So Scrum is one methodology, but there's lots of other ones. In fact, a lot of times in organizations, you're going to use blends of these methodologies. You're going to use Scrum, which tells you these 3 roles and 4 ceremonies and 1 backlog, but you'll complement it with some other practices from methodologies like extreme programming. That's where the idea of a user story comes from. You might complement it with some techniques around relative estimating, which is this idea of story points. So all that's going to be introduced there. Then you'll get introduced to the life cycle within Scrum, some of the terminologies. You'll dig into what a sprint is, why time boxing is so beneficial and something you can use not just in your work environment, but outside of that. Releases, what's involved in a release? How do we go about delivering something to unlock its value? Then we'll spend a bit more time on some of the mechanics around things like our daily scrums. We'll touch on concepts like the user story cards that the user stories represent. We'll have some conversations about done. How do we know something's done? What's our definition of done? And how do we ensure work in the backlog is reflective of what we're trying to get completed? And then we'll differentiate between the product backlog, all the work that needs to get done, the sprint backlog, the work that we're going to get done in the sprint. We'll go through the ceremonies we just spent some time on, planning, reviews, retros, and then we'll talk about the 3 roles that we have, and then get a bit more into the day in the life. Like, what does a Scrum Master do? What does a day-to-day activity look like? And what are things that they don't do? That can be really important. We'll look at the team. How do we empower those teams? We'll also talk a bit about concepts like the role of a manager. Managers aren't going to go away. We still need managers. They're going to offer really important services to the team. But how do they do that in a way that enables the team and supports them? And then what do we do when we have some specialty roles that we need? Maybe, you're building some software application, you need a network security engineer to help for a little period of time, but they're not really kind of embedded in the team. How do we bring those folks in, get them involved? How do we manage distributed Scrum teams? I deal with this all the time. I've got team members that are in India and America and Europe. How do we bring them all together, work effectively as a team? How do we think about our customers, that target audience? And then a little bit more conversations about certification paths. And because this isn't just the only certification you'll have, you'll want to consider. I think this is a great starting point, but there's lots of other certifications that you can use to further complement your career path.
Yeah. So that's with the self-learning content. You also have live class curriculum, but one quick question that I'm sure a lot of them will have here is, so is a Scrum Master or, so do these Scrums necessarily happen in teams that are a part of the tech team or say, tech and related, say someone who's in a data team or a product team? Is it like that, or can anyone really take a Scrum Master certification?
Fantastic question. You're absolutely right. And it is one that comes up quite a bit. So Scrum started in the software development space, but very quickly people realized that, hey, we can use this in lots of other areas. If you're in sales, if you're in marketing, you're in HR, all these different areas and functions can get the exact same benefits from these practices. So this is a big reason that Scrum's been so embraced. In fact, some of the organizations I'm working with have just made commitments that we're going Scrum all the way. Business, technology, doesn't matter where you're in. We're going to raise everyone in these small teams. These teams will be centered on products. We're going to really emphasize these Scrum practices. So in answer to your question, yes, it is used extensively, whether you're in HR or you're in finance, Scrum and its ideas can be applied in all those settings.
Right. Got it. Got it. So yeah, this is about, this is the live class curriculum again. If you can just quickly take them through that as well.
Yeah, well, yes, the live class curriculum is going to have some similar parallels, as you might not be surprised to hear. A few things that I think just maybe to highlight. One is you'll notice we're going to talk about in lesson 14 the pillars of Scrum. So what are the sort of the foundations of Scrum? Again, that's going to be really important when we get the CSM exam. So I want to highlight that, those Scrum values that I mentioned a little bit about. But the rest of this content really echoes what we just covered. All this is also referenced in your Scrum guide, so you can get a bit of a sort of reference for all those. But the power of the live courses, frankly, from my vantage point at least, is you benefit a lot from having someone who's done this many, many times talk to you about some of the real world experiences of applying these techniques and practices. So Simplilearn does a great job attracting really talented instructors who can bring a lot of that practical real world experience and not only inform you on it, but give you a place to ask some questions. Because many, many times, Scrum's been out there for a while. A lot of times people are actually a little bit more interested in saying, well, I'm using Scrum and I'm really struggling because I got this third-party organization that we have to partner with, and it's really hard to get my sprints aligned with them. How do we solve for that problem? So this gives you a place to ask a few of those questions too. And then, as I mentioned earlier, build out that network. Get that collection of other people with similar interests and passion, and work with them in your career.
Got it. Got it. All right. So great. So now that you've understood the curriculum and pretty much all the details of the course, all the features that you get along with it, there are also a bunch of free courses that you can see. So these are complimentary. And remember, you will access this on Scrum Alliance's platform. This is not on the Simplilearn platform, and you will have trainers assigned for each cohort there. Right. So you can also download the syllabus here, take a look at it in detail. I've shared the link to the course page here. And what I'm going to do now is, while we wait for questions, I'm going to be launching a quick poll taking your interest in the certification training program. Yeah, so if you select a yes, someone like a learning advisor will contact you and explain you these details before you make a decision. Yes? Okay, great. And so here are your training advisors. We've got all of these are, certified Scrum trainers. We've got them, and then a lot of a lot of certified Scrum trainers as well in charge of each cohort, right? So if you've got questions now, we'll take them right away. I think, Bryan, you've already answered that one question that came in.
Just that one question,
If there's anyone else who's got a question, either everyone is super clear or, I mean, everyone has no idea about what a Scrum Master is. So either the two is definitely the case today because it's usually never this silent. We have a lot of questions about what they can do. So if you've got questions, don't hesitate to post them. It can be as simple as why should I be taking a certified Scrum Master certification. So it can be as simple as that and can be something similar to what I asked Bryan as well. So it can be anything, just post them on the Q&A box. Also, audience on YouTube, please let us know if you have questions on the chat. Yeah, great. Okay. So anything else about the course that you would want to know, understand, please check out the course page. Yeah, there you go. Some questions now. Since these are live classes, what is the timing? So the recordings are accessible. Remember that the self-learning content that you get, sorry, is available to you lifetime, and the course cohorts are valid for three to 4 days. So there's a course every weekend. Okay, so here you go, guys. People asking for how much the course is, what your calendar is. Take a look. Courses are on weekends. Sometimes there's a weekday cohort as well. Here are the timings. Yes. Bryan, there's a question on the chat. Does the certification have a validity? Obviously, it does. If yes, how can it be renewed?
Yeah, so it's a 2-year renewal cycle, and this is
Mm,
where we're going to learn about these SEUs. You have
mm,
to complete a certain amount of these SEUs, and they come in different forms. You can take training, so this is going to be an easy way to get 16 SEUs right out of the bat. But you can also volunteer. You can, write blog posts. You can even do self-learning, all of which are
mm.
going to help you get your SEU. So that does need to be maintained. You have a 2-year window to maintain your certification. And but the good news is you don't have to retake the exam. If you maintain it, no exam required.
Oh, okay. That's amazing. That's actually
Yeah.
great. I hope that answers your question, Lauren. We have a question on YouTube. Okay, how much fees for the exam? So the exam fee is included in the training fee, Pansari. So if you enroll for this training program, you're also paying the exam fee, so you get the exam voucher. All of that is available here on the course page.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. And so I've shared the screen that has the course cohort details because a lot of you, I'm sure, have that as your question. Okay, what is the exam format? How difficult is it? So we've got a bunch
Mhm.
of questions now, finally.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, they're great questions. So the exam format is multiple choice. You're going to have a question. You're going to have 4 answers, and you have to pick the best answer for the question. Is it difficult? Well, I mean, that's possibly a personal question. Everyone's going to have a different experience here. But I would say this is a very accessible exam. I don't think there's no math involved for starters. So if you have any math anxiety, don't worry. You're not going to deal with any of
Mm.
that. And there are some reading comprehension skills, and not all of us are as familiar, comfortable, perhaps with English as a native language. So just be aware you're going to have to read, but they're not like novels. You're reading maybe a couple sentences. The questions are have all been peer reviewed. It is a global exam, so I don't think anyone's going to find a lot of challenges there. But you do want to make sure you're ready for the fact that you'll be reading these questions. But there is no math. Yeah, I would say having taken a lot of certifications exams and writing a lot of exam questions. I would say this is probably the most accessible exam you can take in this space. I think this is a great way to kind of get introduced to the concepts. It's a pretty accessible exam. It's not very stressful. In fact, I don't think I've ever met anyone that wasn't able to complete it successfully. So I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah, now we have a lot of questions for you, Bryan. So
Hmm.
there's another person asking the same question. So should a person trying for a non-technical product or a program manager role look at Scrum Master
Oh,
certification?
yeah, absolutely. And the reason for that is even if you're not working the technical domain, you're working, I don't know, in HR. In fact, I work at oil and gas quite a bit because I live in Houston. Um, and if you're familiar with anything about the oil and gas industry, there's these big oil rigs, right? Where you send people out and they're kind of, working on the rigs. And oftentimes they're in these big floating platforms in the middle of the ocean. They use Scrum in those settings. Why? Because they bring these people together. They say, okay, what are we doing today? That's a daily stand-up. Each person says, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. They check in. Do you need any help? Do you have anything that's blocking? Yeah, actually, I don't have this special wrench that I need to, move this bolt. That's an issue. So these Scrum techniques can be applied even in those environments, which
Mm.
have nothing to do with technology, right? These are just, really, really, functional, just get the job done kind of roles. So it works really effectively there. And then in addition, let's, say maybe you're working more of a corporate enterprise environment. Maybe you're not directly involved in these, Scrum teams and activities, but having the understanding is going to help you work more effectively with those teams. So
Okay.
this is a very accessible investment. It's a pretty straightforward exam, as I just mentioned. It's a 2-day course. You're reading a 13-page document.
Mm.
Of all the certification you take, this is probably the best one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that answers your question, Nikhil. And Falak has a question: how many number of SEUs are needed after 2 years of passing the exam to keep it valid?
Current, well, you might have to check the Agile lines because sometimes it will change.
Hmm.
My understanding is I believe it's actually, I think it's 16. So I think you're good with this, taking this class, you'll get all the SEUs need for the first rate. And then they'll give you some ideas. So for example, Aparna and I did a session last week before, a couple weeks ago anyways, with the Agile Alliance group. And
Yeah.
we had very, very high attendance. A big reason for that is because people are very eager to get SEUs, and this is an easy way to get one. Is you attend a webinar and you get one SEU. So you can check the CSM certification site on what you do to maintain it. I believe it's 16 SEUs, and they'll
So
give you guidance on how to get those.
yes, I'm just checking this online, and so this thing came up. So it's 20 SEUs every 2 years, but yeah, I think it
20.
keeps changing. I mean, I'm not sure. This
Yeah,
is
20 actually, that does sound right. I think it's 20 every 2 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. I think that answers your question, Palak. Yeah. Great. So we have a question from Dharanya on the Q&A box. What's the next certification after CSM? Do we need to complete CDM in order to first in order to go to the next level?
And that might have been a typo, perhaps. I think she might have meant CSM there, but
Yeah.
yes. So CSM is just a great foundation to begin with. There are other certifications you can take. It depends a little bit on what path you want to go. If you want to continue down the Scrum Master path, you can take additional Certified Scrum Master courses. You could find maybe you want to become a product owner, and there's some product owner courses you can take as well. And sometimes they will require as a prerequisite a CSM, but I believe many of them do not. So you've got a couple ways you can explore this, but honestly, CSM is just a great place to begin the journey.
Okay, someone is asking about the exam pass rate. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah, usually organizations are a little careful about sharing that.
yeah.
So it's difficult to get an exact answer to that. So I think if they were on the call, if we had some Agile Alliance or Scrum.org here, they'd probably say, well, generally it's about 80%. I can tell you from my personal experience, I've never actually met anyone that didn't pass. So I think that's right.
Oh, that's
Even
interesting.
higher. Now, you asked me that question about the PMP or the Lean Six Sigma, the program manager. I mean, those are pretty demanding exams. There is definitely a much higher fail rate. I think the scaled Agile framework, which again is quite a demanding certification exam, I believe their pass rate is closer to 60%.
Wow.
Um, so those are a little bit more challenging. This one's pretty accessible. And by the way, I believe, don't you have some kind of guarantee for pass rate? Maybe I don't mean to
Yeah,
put you on
we
the
do,
spot.
we do, we do. So there is an exam pass guarantee and a
There
hundred
we go.
percent money back guarantee, but I don't think this should be your motivator to take up
Right.
the certification. I mean, like Brian said, focus on the why. Why do you want to become a Scrum Master is probably more important than an exam pass guarantee or a money back guarantee, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, it should align with what you want to do with the Agile and Scrum certifications. Great. What is the training cost with? So, anything that you see on this page is inclusive of the exam cost. So, this is the training cost, 14,200 rupees. So, this is after the 53% off discount that you see. And in case you are outside India, please head on to this page. You'll be able to, I'm just going to share that link here. You'll be able to check the course fee in your currency. Okay. What are the different ways, Falak? I think we answered that. Ways to do that is to attend, write blogs or contribute to, the Scrum community in general, I guess. Bryan, I think you could add to that.
Yeah.
That's what
Yep. No,
Bryan said.
you're
Yeah, yeah,
exactly right. Yeah.
yeah.
You can even read a book.
Oh,
And yeah, I mean, there's different ways to get it. So yeah, but attending webinars, a lot of people enjoy attending webinars because they're pretty accessible. You can do it on lunch break. Volunteering, don't forget, that's another way to earn some SEUs and sort of giving back to the communities. So the best way to really find that out is just go to the Scrum Alliance site, and they will give you lots of suggestions and ways in which you can earn your SEUs.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also, it's just 20 SUs, so you just have to plan it out, I guess, in the next 2 years, what your plan is going to be. And also, Shiva, how many days of training? Just a couple of days, Shiva. Remember, the whole session today is about helping you clear the CSM exam in a week. So, like Bryan said, this is probably the easiest exam that you could take. Of course, it requires some amount and deal of preparation, so you could do that with a training program. So it's just a 2-day program, and we've got cohorts every week. Okay. And so all of these that you see are your trainers. Yeah. Right. So I'm just going to share. I did already. Yeah. So the training schedule is already there on the chat. The course page is already there on the chat. And if you've selected a yes on the poll, then someone is going to reach out to you and help you with the exact time, date, details of the trainers and everything. Shiva, I'm not sure of the exam fees, but like I said, the exam fee is included in the training fee. So I'm not sure of how, what exactly is that component of the exam fee. You could find that on the Scrum Alliance website yourself. But remember that because you're paying for the exam fee here, we'll help you with everything else. Yeah? Right. Okay, cool. I think we're done with answering most questions. If there are any more questions, please put them on the chat. I'm also closing this poll. I'm assuming all of you who are interested have expressed your interest here. Yeah. If you don't get a call or anything, just reach out to a learning advisor yourself. Just head to the course page, enter your name and whatever your query is on the bot, or submit your details and someone is going to contact you there. Yeah. So another poll that I'm going to launch is for your certificate for attending this webinar and understanding how you can crack the CSM exam. So I hope the webinar actually helped you get insights. So here's the certificate poll that you can get and also use on your social media platforms. We have another question here. Yeah. Bryan, you're already answering that.
I am, yes, yes, exactly. Great question, though. And yes, you can apply these techniques. I do it all the time in conventional traditional projects.
Nice, nice. So I think we're just going to wait around for the poll responses to come in, but we're pretty much done explaining the details of the course. We've helped you understand how you can clear this exam in a week. And let's say you would want to revisit this particular recording. We'll send the recording on WhatsApp, but you'll get a downloadable version on your email in the next 24 hours. Okay, from where can we get it? It will come to you on your email, Ambali, in the next 24 hours. Once you've given your name, please make sure you give your name properly, so that we don't have to take the effort to find your actual name. Sometimes it's just a device name or something else that comes in as a name, and then we're figuring out what your name is. So make sure you enter your actual name, your real name that you would want to see on the certificate. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that you found this webinar useful. Okay, thanks for this introduction, Bryan. Yes, thank you so much. Glad you found this useful.
Yeah, wonderful.
Good presentation. Okay, great. Glad you were able to understand what a CSM does, what a certification entails. Great, Bill. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I think all of you guys are done entering your name, I'm assuming. Thank you for simplifying the process. Yes, definitely. Bryan did simplify the process and explained it really, really well. I hope you have bookmarked those links that I shared on the chat. So please keep them safely so that if you want a free practice test, or let's say you want to take a look at the study guide, you could do that with the links I shared on the chat. Thank you, Sridhar. Thank you, everyone else. And while you leave, you could also rate us and let us know how you like the webinar, because we're getting some amazing comments. Also, just quickly rate us and let us know how you like the webinar as well. Yes. And Bryan is here for another couple of minutes to just answer any more questions that you guys have. Okay, thank you, Hassa on YouTube. They've also found the webinar really useful.
Great.
That's great. That's great. Okay, cool. Wow. 89% of them are giving us a 5. It's amazing.
Ooh. Ooh, way to go.
A couple of them 4, so it's okay. There's room for improvement. Nice.
Always. We could be just hard graders. Maybe just,
Yeah, hard grading. Yes. Claudia, you are on the YouTube live streams. If you are looking for those links, okay, I understand what you mean. You're looking for the free resources. Yes. I will share that on the YouTube chat after this session. Yes. But Claudia, you can also join the WhatsApp community. I'm going to be sharing these links there, but I will either way share it on the YouTube chat. Yes.
I put the Scrum guides one in.
Yes, those are the Scrum guides.
But the practice exam on the Simplilearn site, you have to do that. All right, well, I'm probably going to jump here, Aparna, for another
Yes,
session.
all right.
So
Thank you.
it
Thank
was
you so much, Bryan, for your time
yeah,
today.
wonderful
Wonderful.
session.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck in your CSM pursuits. And yeah, hope to see you maybe in a certification training class one day.
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye.
You guys have a great day. Goodbye.
Yes. Bye-bye. All right. So Claudia, the WhatsApp info is there on the video description. Just head to the video description and scroll down. You'll be able to find the link to the WhatsApp community. Okay. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Okay, what I'm going to do is simplify the whole process is you guys can just become a part of this community. Okay. And I'm going to share this on the YouTube live stream as well, so that yes, I'm going to do that after the stream ends. I'm not able to do that right now. But Claudia, be rest assured, you will be receiving the links on the live chat as well. Yeah, I'll see you again in another session. Bye-bye. I hope you all had a great session of learning, understanding of how to clear the exam. I hope it'll help you make a decision very, very soon. See you on the other side. Bye-bye. Have a good day.